Hello, this is Jim and me with IT Supplies. Today we're going to go over how to set up spot color libraries in the ONYX RIP suite. As you can see here, I am using ONYX Thrive. However, in ONYX Production House as well as Poster Shop, the layout is the same, so you should be seeing things the same way. In order to start working with our spot color library, we'll access it through the Setup tab, RIP Configuration, and Color Matching Table. It takes just a moment to bring that up. And here it is, and you'll see we have three tabs: System Defined Colors, User Defined Colors, and then Print Mode Defined Colors. So under System Defined Colors, you'll see pretty much the entire Pantone library here, as well as some of the REL library as well. Okay, so you can see there's textile libraries in here, there's coded, there's uncoded libraries. So essentially what these are the nominal values that Pantone basically designates for these colors, essentially, that ONYX is using based on a specific measurement condition. Not sure what ONYX uses with Pantone, if it's M0, M1, or M2. So essentially, if you brought a file into the system and then had one of these Pantone colored names in it and typed out exactly the same way, you do need to make sure of this, that your files, if it's going to use a spot color in it, has to have the name Pantone in capitals with the space and the space between the color and the library that it is. So keep that in mind. You know, capital letters, lowercase, spaces, it all has to be the same, otherwise the RIP, any RIP, will not be able to recognize that color. Okay, so essentially, you know, you can't see the values here, so just know that it's going to basically use the same values most likely that you're seeing in your Adobe suite, if that's where you're creating your spot color libraries. The main reason why you would do something on this page basically is to add an alias. So let's just say Pantone Orange 021C, somebody had it written like this. So basically, if a lot of your files have that name and you don't want to go back through and change the name in every one of those files, you can create an alias. Basically, that alias tells the system that if this name comes in, Pantone in lowercase 021C, to use basically this color name. Actually, I should have been choosing the orange 021C there, but I think you get the idea. So for instance, if I went here, added the alias, then we would be looking at it correctly. So that would be a proper alias there. Sometimes I've seen a situation where you know, somebody might want to replace a color. Like, let's just say I want you to use process yellow C instead of yellow 012C, something like that. You know, and that's okay too, but you might as well just call it yellow 012C. Not sure why you would need to do that. Just use the correct Pantone color going forward so everybody knows which color you're actually talking about. A lot of ways to cause confusion here. Okay, so that's for the System Defined Color tab. Now these next two tabs, basically if you have a Pantone color in there, it overwrites what the system has as the numerical value for that color. So keep that in mind. You can overwrite Pantone's nominal value, and in most cases you'll want to. Pantone does not know what printer, what media, what ink set you are printing to. So when they give an LAB value for these colors, that universal number, you know, it is the number. So if that is used on your printer, ink, and media, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you that exact Pantone color back. That's not necessarily how this works based on the different gamuts of, you know, printer, ink, and media, essentially, right? And white points as well. So usually we have to tweak those Pantone colors if we want to get the correct color back. And two ways of doing that is, in ONYX at least, is to use user-defined colors as well as print mode defined colors. So let's go over user-defined colors first. So you'll notice in user-defined colors that essentially I have the ability to add an LAB value. So why would you want to do this? Well, you know, when we measure colors, we're using a spectrophotometer, and the value that the spectrophotometer gives us back is an LAB value, with L standing for luminance, 0 being black, 100 being white. A is the x-axis, where minus A is green and plus A is magenta. And then the B-axis, where plus B is yellow and minus B is blue. So we're talking about opposing colors, the color wheel, CIE lab color space. So this numerical value is a point in that three-dimensional color space. You know, so that's why it's a universal color number, right? No matter what printing system that you print on, if you print an 86699, then you're getting that color. So in a CMYK world, that's much different. We call that a device-dependent workflow, because a 100 cyan, 100 magenta, 20 yellow, and 20 black is not the same on one printer's ink set as it is on another. Let me put it to you another way. The saturation of the 100% cyan patch on one ink set will not be the same as the saturation of a 100% cyan patch on another ink set. This is why we linearize and calibrate, actually, to get a normalized output. So essentially, we're talking about a device-independent workflow as well as a device-dependent. Device-independent, we're using a universal LAB value here. It is what we measure. So if you were to do an iterative workflow here, let's just say this was my first value that I put in. This is the actual 109C value, let's say. So if it's 86699, if the spectrophotometer gave me back 88699, well, I know that that color is a little bit too bright, that printed. 2 points too bright, in fact. So it's very simple to make a tweak here. I could just basically plug in 84, drop it 2 points to darken that print. And then I would measure it again, and hopefully I would have 86. If not, it should be much closer, and then I can make another iteration if I like. And then that new recipe is what's going to give me the wanted value for 109C. So keep that in mind. You would want to make a spreadsheet for your color tables separately with your wanted values, because when you're using these user-defined colors or print mode-defined colors, you are making changes to those so that you get the color back that you want. So these will no longer be the wanted values when you measure. So you are going to want to have a list of that so that you'll be able to refer to it when you measure these colors for QC, you know, for dialing in a media or whatever you're doing. Okay? So you can see here as well, I can take a spectrophotometer and measure a patch in. I can choose from a number of different devices to do that measurement with. So if I needed to measure a swatch in, and then I name that color for that particular customer, that would be in this library and ready to use. Okay, the next tab here, we will get to this. I'm going to talk about importing and exporting these tables in a little bit, but let's move on to print mode defined colors first, and then we can review that. Okay, so in print mode defined colors, what's nice about this is I'm able to select the actual print mode, the printer, media, and basically color setup, you know, that was built, you know, for that printer and media. So essentially in print mode defined colors, I can select my mode. So I'm going to select the S80 here. And I'll choose my media. And then I can add a color in. So let's just call this Gym Blue. And we'll just say 100 cyan, 80 magenta, and 10 yellow. Okay, so that's my color here, and as you can see, I can add my colors in, put in my recipes, and then I can go ahead and print and see if I need to change that CMYK recipe to something different. Okay, so one of the things that I can do is utilize Swatch books. Now with Swatch books, what's really nice when you're in here is instead of opening up the library up here, I can go ahead and click on that Swatch tab and it opens it up here. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. I have a separate video that goes over the Swatch books workflow, but towards the end I talk about how to utilize the Swatch books, and then how to that you're going to take the new CMYK recipe and enter it into your spot color library as the new adjustment to get the color that you want. So I'm basically going to show you how to do that here momentarily. So essentially I would make adjustments to here based on different variants of lightness, chroma, or saturation and hue. I can do a two-dimensional or a one-dimensional variation of that source color. And you can see my original CMYK values here. I can go ahead and then print that. And then I'll close out my Swatch books window. I'll go ahead and export this color table. We'll just call it CMYK color table test. Put that right on the desktop so it's easy to find. And then I can go ahead and open this up in Job Editor as soon as it's done rendering here. I had another one open. Go ahead and close this. Should be done rendering in just a moment. And then we'll go ahead and open it up in Job Editor. So when I bring it into Job Editor, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and basically jot down a new CMYK recipe and show you how to enter that into the spot color library. Okay. Basically what you're going to do with the Swatch book print is visually look at it next to the color that you need, or you're going to measure and find the LAV value that hits the color that you want, and then plug that CMYK recipe into the library. So in here, I can go ahead into Job Editor, and I'll go ahead and jot one of these colors down. So again, you would print this out, visually look at it, and either visually match or measure to see what best matches the color that you're aiming for. So let's just say this color right here is the best match. So my new CMYK recipe is cyan 100, magenta 38.4, yellow 0, and black 47.5. So that new recipe is what I'm going to want to plug into the library. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to my Setup tab here, RIP Configuration, Color Matching Table. Takes just a moment to bring that up. And I'll go to my Print Mode, Define Colors, and you can see Gym Blue is accessed here. Okay, and then I can go in and I click on Edit, and now I just plug in my new values. So for magenta, that's 38.4. Yellow is 0. And black is 47.5. Okay, so that's a pretty big difference. I had some yellow ink, 10% in there. I didn't have any black in there and quite a bit of magenta. So the actual recipe to give me the color that I wanted was much, much different than the original values. So you can see how a device-dependent workflow will change. These numbers will change from printer to printer and media to media, inkset to inkset. So now that I have my new value, anytime I bring in a file that has gem blue in it, it'll use this recipe instead and give me the color that I want. Okay, so a good idea with ONYX is definitely to export these libraries. You saw I already did that once. Maybe, by dates, you can have dates in there. Specific printer and media would be a good idea, so you know what goes to what in case you needed to move something to a different ONYX system, for instance. In the user-defined colors, it's critical to export this because these values also will be ever so slightly different from printer to media to media. So essentially you would export this file, say test color table, and then when you go to that new printer media combination, you would need to go back in here, import that so that you are accessing that color table as opposed to the one that's already existing there. Okay. With the print mode defined colors, you don't really need to do that. Essentially, you can have a quick set, even a default quick set, to say based on this mode here, and you can see if I uncheck this box, based on this mode, if I have use spot color replacement table checked, if there's a spot color replacement table in my spot color library, it will utilize that. So it's already enabled in the quick set and will use any different values from the nominal values to give you the colors that you want. So print mode defined colors, the CMYK workflow seems to be an easier workflow. There's more you can do with it in ONYX. LAB can be easier in terms of tuning colors, but you do have the Swatch book workflow, which is really nice to be able to do a visual match or a measure match with that print file. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you to give you a little bit more familiarity with utilizing spot color libraries within the ONYX RIP. Please feel free to reach out to IT Supplies. We have a large technician team. I'm the main color consultant for IT Supplies, so any questions that you have, we'd be happy to answer them. Have a great day.
Thanks so much for watching this. If you would like to see more of these videos, please go to our YouTube channel.